The city was a ghost. Ruined buildings cast long shadows beneath a smoky sky, streets cracked and deserted except for the occasional echo of distant groans. Above, the world was dead, a wasteland where only the undead roamed freely. But beneath the surface, something stirred. Maya crouched behind the rusted remains of a crumbled overpass, her breath steady despite the cold and the silence. Her sharp eyes scanned the horizon, catching a flicker of movement. A lone zombie, stumbling, its ragged clothes stained and torn, shuffled past unaware. The undead were everywhere these days. There was no safety on the surface. She pressed her hand against the metal grate of a subway entrance, her gateway into the underground maze she had heard whispers about, tunnels stretching beneath the dead city, rumored to be a sanctuary for those lucky, or desperate, enough to survive down there. But Maya wasn't sure if the tunnels promised salvation or something far worse. With a cautious glance over her shoulder, she whispered into her radio, her voice low but firm. "Jax, I'm at the entrance. It's quiet, too quiet. Are you ready?" Static buzzed back, then a calm voice. "Ready. We've got to move fast. Daylight's running out." Jax was her closest companion in this broken world. They had scavenged together for months, trusting only each other. Tonight, they weren't just scavenging, they were diving into the unknown. Maya eased the grate open with a screech that echoed like a scream in the silent air. She dropped down into the darkness, the cool, damp air wrapping around her like a shroud. One by one, the rest of their small group followed, Jax, a former mechanic named Theo, and a medic called Lila. Each carried what little they had left, weapons, flashlights, and hope. The tunnel walls were covered in graffiti and grime, remnants of a forgotten time. Water dripped from pipes overhead, and the faint hum of distant machinery sent a shiver down Maya's spine. The underground was alive with sound, but not all of it was natural. As they moved deeper, the tunnels narrowed, forcing them to walk single file. Maya's flashlight flickered, casting long, twisted shadows that danced along the cracked tiles. Somewhere ahead, a sudden skittering noise made her freeze. "Zombies," whispered Theo, gripping his makeshift spear tighter. "Maybe," Maya replied. "Stay sharp." They pressed on, hearts pounding in the silence that followed. But then the darkness seemed to thicken. Ahead, the faint smell of rot and decay grew stronger. Suddenly, a guttural moan echoed off the tunnel walls. The group stopped, every muscle tensed. From the shadows, pale, decayed hands reached out, followed by slow, shambling forms with hollow eyes. The zombies, they were here. Not just surface walkers, but creatures that had found their way underground. Lila fired a quick shot, the noise deafening in the confined space. The group sprang into action, swinging and stabbing, trying to keep the creatures at bay. But the zombies kept coming, relentless. Maya grabbed Jax's arm. "Fall back." To the junction up ahead. They retreated with quick, desperate steps, their flashlights bobbing wildly as more undead shuffled into the light. The walls closed in, the tunnel twisting into an unfamiliar labyrinth. The safe haven they sought was now a maze of terror. As they reached the junction, a sudden crash behind them made Maya whip around. The tunnel behind had partially collapsed, trapping a member of their group. Theo's panicked shout broke the tense silence. "Lila! Theo! No!" Maya's voice cracked as she saw Lila trapped beneath rubble, her legs pinned. "Help me!" Lila gasped, pain thick in her voice. Maya's heart slammed against her ribs. The zombies closed in fast, their moans growing louder. She had to decide, risk everything to save her friend or escape alone. Jax shouted from the junction, "Maya! We have to go. Now!" The group's safety hinged on a razor's edge. Maya dropped to her knees, digging frantically with bare hands, desperation burning in her eyes. The walls seemed to pulse with menace as the undead clawed nearer. A sudden, heavy groan shook the tunnel, and then, silence. The rubble shifted slightly. "Got her!" Maya yanked Lila free just as a zombie lunged forward. With a scream, Maya drove her blade into the creature's skull, then helped Lila to her feet. Blood mixed with dirt, the taste of fear bitter on their tongues. They didn't stop. Ahead lay deeper tunnels, and maybe answers, or more death. The descent had begun. Beneath the surface, in the heart of dead America, a war was waiting to be fought. And Maya knew, with chilling certainty, it was only just beginning. Would you like me to continue now with part 2 next? Or do you want any tweaks to part 1 before I proceed? The tunnel air was thick with damp and decay, a heavy silence settling over Maya's group as they pressed forward into the underground labyrinth. Lila leaned heavily on Maya's shoulder, pale and trembling but alive. The scrape of their boots against cracked concrete echoed faintly, swallowed quickly by the oppressive darkness. Somewhere far ahead, distant dripping water marked the rhythm of the tunnels, constant, unyielding, haunting. Maya's flashlight flickered again. She tightened her grip on the worn handle. Keep moving. We can't stop here. Jack scanned the walls with a wary eye. This place feels abandoned for years, but there's something else. He pointed to faded symbols etched into the damp stone, cryptic warnings or forgotten markings left by those who came before. Like someone wanted us to stay out. Theo's voice was low and strained. We're not alone down here. I can feel it. They rounded a corner into a wider chamber. The faint glow of emergency lights flickered in the distance, casting eerie red shadows. Maya's heart thudded painfully. This wasn't just a subway tunnel anymore, it was a forgotten underground world. Suddenly, their footsteps echoed against something ahead, a clatter of metal. The group froze, weapons raised. Out of the gloom emerged the skeletal remains of an abandoned campsite. Torn tents sagged, rusted cans littered the floor, and half-burned candles lay melted in thick dust. Nearby, a broken journal caught Maya's eye, its pages yellowed and brittle. She crouched and picked it up, her fingers trembling. The handwriting was jagged, desperate. Day 47. The infection spread too fast. We sealed the entrances. No one will find us here. If you're reading this, beware. The tunnels hold more than the dead. A shiver crawled down Maya's spine. More than the dead? What could be worse than the endless undead waiting to devour them? Someone else lived here, Lila whispered, her voice barely audible. But they didn't make it. Before anyone could respond, a sudden noise shattered the stillness, a faint scratching, like claws on metal. Maya's flashlight darted toward the sound. From a shadowed alcove, a small figure burst forward, a gaunt, wild-eyed man clutching a rusted pipe. His clothes were ragged, and his face smeared with grime and fear. Who are you? Maya demanded, raising her blade defensively. The man's breath was ragged. I'm Levi. I've been trapped down here for weeks. Those things, are getting smarter. Smart? Jax echoed, narrowing his eyes. Levi nodded vigorously. Not like the zombies you know. They work together. They've learned to hunt in packs, set traps, even follow us through the tunnels. Maya exchanged a tense glance with her group. The stakes just climbed higher. We need to keep moving, she said firmly. Tell us everything you know. Levi led them deeper into the tunnels, his steps quick despite exhaustion. Along the way, the walls grew more industrial, rusted pipes, metal doors with faded labels, and long-abandoned control panels flickering weakly. They reached a locked steel door marked Laboratory, restricted access. Levi's hands shook as he tried to open it, finally forcing it with a loud screech. Inside, rows of shattered glass tanks and overturned equipment lay scattered. The air smelled of chemicals long spoiled. Maya's gaze landed on a series of faded charts pinned to a wall. The scribbled notes described experiments involving the undead, attempts to control the infection, to weaponize it. We're not just fighting zombies, Theo muttered. They were trying to turn the dead into something else. The words sent a cold dread through the group. These tunnels weren't just a refuge, they were a graveyard of humanity's worst mistakes. Suddenly, a harsh voice echoed from behind a barricade. This area is off limits. Turn around or we'll shoot. Everyone froze. From the shadows stepped a group of armed survivors, their faces hard and suspicious. Their leader, a tall woman with cold eyes and a rifle slung over her shoulder, stepped forward. "You don't belong here," she said sharply. "This is our territory." Maya raised her hands slowly. "We don't want trouble. We're just trying to survive." The woman's gaze flicked to Lila's injured leg. "You're wounded. You have no idea what you're walking into." "Neither do you," Maya shot back. "But we can't stay on the surface. The city's dead, and the tunnels might be our last chance." A tense silence stretched between the two groups, broken only by distant sounds, the unmistakable shuffle of undead footsteps approaching. The hostile survivors tightened their grip on weapons. "You've got 5 minutes to leave. Or we'll make you." Suddenly, a guttural roar echoed through the tunnel, closer this time. The undead were coming, and fast. "Enough!" Maya snapped. "If we don't fight them together, we're all dead." For a moment, no one moved. Then the two groups braced for battle, positioning themselves to defend the narrow passage. The first zombie burst through the shadows, a monstrous figure, faster and more aggressive than any they had faced above ground. It lunged toward Maya's group, teeth bared. Gunfire erupted, mingling with screams and growls. The underground was alive with chaos, every shadow hiding death. Maya fought fiercely, striking down the creature with a well-aimed blade. But more zombies poured through the tunnels like a tide, drawn to the sound of battle. In the chaos, the group was separated. Maya caught a glimpse of Jax struggling against a pack to her left. Theo was shouting orders but was forced back by a wall of snarling undead. As the battle raged, Maya's mind raced. The hostile survivors might be their only hope, if they could put aside suspicion long enough to survive the shadows beneath the surface. But deeper into the tunnels, past the flickering lights and shattered walls, something even darker waited. Something that was watching. Something that knew they were coming. And it was ready. "Would you like me to proceed with part 3? The gunfire echoed endlessly through the tunnels, a chaotic symphony of desperation and survival. Maya's muscles burned as she fought side by side with the hostile survivors, enemies turned uneasy allies in the face of relentless undead. But the tide of zombies pressed closer, driven by hunger and something darker lurking beneath. When the last of the creatures fell with a sickening thud, a fragile silence returned. Dust hung heavy in the stale air, mingling with the scent of sweat and blood. Maya wiped grime from her brow, her gaze drifting to the narrow passage ahead, the only way forward. Levi, who had stayed close since joining the fight, pointed to a steel door partially hidden behind debris. "That's an old military bunker. It might still have power. It's our best chance." Jax nodded grimly. "If we can get inside, maybe we can regroup and find something to turn the tide." The group pushed forward, stepping cautiously over broken concrete and twisted rebar. As Maya reached the door, she noticed faded letters etched in the rusted metal: Sector 7, Emergency Shelter. Theo checked the lock mechanism. "It's jammed, but I can force it." With a grunt, he rammed his shoulder into the door. It groaned, then gave way with a loud clang, revealing a dimly lit interior. Inside, the air was cooler, almost sterile compared to the tunnels outside. Emergency lights cast flickering blue glows over metal corridors lined with thick cables and sealed rooms. The walls bore the weight of decades, but the technology hummed faintly, a ghost of the world that once was. "This place is intact," Lila said, her voice weak but hopeful. They moved deeper into the bunker, careful not to disturb the silence. The corridors branched like veins, leading to control rooms, storage areas, and living quarters frozen in time. Shelves still held dusty medical supplies, and in one room, faded photographs showed smiling faces from a long-lost past. Maya's fingers traced the edge of a cracked computer screen. The screen flickered to life with a series of beeps, surprising them all. "Some systems are still working," she whispered. Jax accessed the terminal, navigating through layers of locked files. "These logs, they talk about experiments. Something called Project Lazarus." Theo frowned. Sounds like a last-ditch effort to cure the infection. But the notes mention enhanced reanimation, Lila added, eyeing the screen nervously. That sounds like more than just healing. Maya's stomach twisted. The deeper they went, the clearer it became. This bunker was a testing ground for horrors beneath the surface. The zombie outbreak might have been man-made. A sudden rumble shook the walls. The group stiffened, weapons raised. Outside, the moans of undead had grown louder again, drawn by the energy hum of the bunker's systems. Jax cursed under his breath. They're coming back. Maya motioned toward a large steel door ahead, heavily reinforced, with a warning sign, Biohazard Containment Unit, authorized personnel only. The sealed chamber, Levi said quietly. They kept something locked in there. Curiosity battled with caution. The door had an electronic lock, but the terminal displayed a control panel nearby. Jax tapped the screen. I can override this. Don't, Maya warned sharply. We don't know what's inside. But it was too late. The lock hissed, the massive door sliding open with a groan. Inside the chamber, a dim red light pulsed, illuminating a figure suspended in a tank filled with murky fluid. The creature was grotesque, twisted and mutated, with glowing eyes and unnatural limbs. It was a fusion of zombie and something else entirely. The air thickened, charged with a dangerous energy. The creature's eyes snapped open, and a low growl escaped its throat. Shut it down. Now! Maya shouted. Jax frantically worked the control panel, but the system was glitching. Sparks flew, and the lights flickered violently. Suddenly, the containment field collapsed with a thunderous crash. The creature lunged forward, breaking free from its tank and slamming against the metal walls. Chaos exploded. Maya and the group scrambled back as the creature roared, its movements quick and terrifyingly intelligent. The hostile survivors outside the bunker clashed with the undead, while inside, Maya's group faced the nightmare they'd unleashed. Jack shouted over the din, "We have to seal this place before more come through." Maya grabbed a heavy metal bar and charged, swinging at the creature's face. It snarled, swiping its clawed hand and narrowly missing her. The battle was brutal and desperate. The creature's strength and speed overwhelmed them, forcing the group to retreat deeper into the bunker's maze-like corridors. As they ran, the power began to fail. The emergency lights flickered out, plunging the tunnels into darkness. Panic threatened to consume them. "Keep moving!" Maya yelled, voice echoing off the cold walls. But the sound of approaching footsteps, human and undead, closed in. In the pitch-black corridor, with danger pressing from every side, Maya knew this was just the beginning. Beneath the surface, the war was far from over. Would you like me to continue to part 4? The bunker's power blackout swallowed them in a suffocating darkness, broken only by the faint clicking of distant footsteps, some slow and deliberate, others uneven and shuffling. Maya's breath came hard and fast, every sense straining to catch the slightest hint of movement or sound. The cold metal walls seemed to close in, the stale air thick with fear. Lila whimpered softly, gripping Maya's arm tightly. "I'm scared," she whispered. Maya swallowed her own terror and squeezed back. "We're going to get out of here. Together." Jax fumbled for his flashlight, the beam trembling as it cut through the blackness. The others clustered close, weapons drawn, eyes wide. The creature they had unleashed was somewhere behind them, and now the encroaching undead outside the bunker seemed to have found their way inside, drawn by the chaos. A sudden noise, a distant scraping, then a faint metallic clang, made everyone freeze. Theo held up a hand, signaling silence. The sound came again, closer this time. "Not just zombies," he murmured. "Something else." Maya's mind raced. What else could live down here? What had those experiments created? She could feel the weight of unseen eyes tracking their every move. Suddenly, a flash of light burst down the corridor, a flare igniting the shadows. It revealed the shape of a figure darting between the walls, too fast to be human, too coordinated to be a mindless walker. "Move!" Maya hissed. They sprinted through the maze of hallways, the the flare's glow illuminating twisted pipes and old warning signs: radiation hazard, quarantine zone, restricted access. The bunker wasn't just a shelter, it was a tomb filled with secrets better left buried. As they rounded a corner, a low growl rumbled from the darkness. From the shadows, a pack of the mutated undead, faster, smarter, their eyes glowing faintly, emerged, blocking the way. The survivors raised their weapons, but the creatures advanced relentlessly, forcing them to fight in tight quarters. Shots rang out, screams pierced the air, and the clash of metal on flesh echoed like thunder. Maya ducked a snapping jaw and swung her blade, slicing through decayed flesh. The stench of death filled her nostrils, but adrenaline drowned out the nausea. Every strike was a fight for survival. "Keep pushing," she shouted, as they fought their way through the pack. Finally, they burst into a wide chamber, its ceiling crumbling and walls lined with faded murals depicting the bunker's original purpose, a sanctuary for the last remnants of humanity. In the center stood a massive steel elevator, its control panel flickering weakly. Jax hurried over and jabbed at the buttons. "No power," he muttered. "But maybe I can reroute from the generator room." "The generator's 2 levels down," Levi said grimly. "We'll have to take the stairs." No one hesitated. The elevator was useless if it couldn't get them out. They descended a narrow stairwell spiraling deeper into the earth, the air growing colder and the darkness more oppressive. Every step echoed, amplifying their fear. At the bottom, the generator room was a cavernous space filled with humming machinery, pipes leaking steam, and flickering monitors displaying unreadable data. Jax approached the control console, pulling at wires and flipping switches, trying to restore power. The rest of the group fanned out, alert for threats. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, bathing the room in harsh white light. Relief washed over them, but it was short-lived. From the shadows emerged a figure, human, but gaunt and wild-eyed, dressed in torn military fatigues. He raised a shaking hand. "Wait! Don't shoot! I'm not one of them." Maya tightened her grip on her blade. "Who are you?" The man swallowed hard. "Name's Daniels. I've been trapped down here since the outbreak. I know this place better than anyone. But there's something worse than the zombies in these tunnels." "What do you mean?" Maya asked, wary. Daniels looked around nervously before continuing. "The experiments didn't just create monsters. They created hunters, intelligent predators designed to root out survivors. They're not just undead. They're weapons." A cold chill ran down Maya's spine. "Where are they now?" Theo pressed. Daniels pointed toward a heavily reinforced door marked experimental containment. "They're in there. And if you want to survive, you have to avoid that place, or face them head-on." Suddenly, the generator room shook violently. Alarms blared. The containment door began to hiss and grind open, releasing a foul, sulfurous smell. "They're coming," Daniels warned. "We have minutes, maybe less." Maya gathered the group. "We don't have a choice. We either fight or get trapped." The reinforced door slid fully open, revealing a grotesque silhouette, a massive creature with glowing eyes, sharp claws, and a twisted, almost mechanical frame. It roared, a sound that vibrated through the metal walls. The battle for the bunker's depths had only just begun. "Ready for part 5 when you are. Want me to keep the pacing and tone as it is?" The monstrous creature surged forward like a living nightmare, its limbs twisting with unnatural speed and strength. Maya barely had time to react, dropping to the floor as its claws ripped the metal wall above where she had stood seconds before. Sparks and shards of debris showered down around her. "Fall back!" Maya shouted, scrambling to her feet. "We need to split up, draw it away from the others." But the bunker's claustrophobic corridors offered no easy escape. The creature was relentless, stalking them through narrow passages, moving with a terrifying precision that betrayed its engineered nature. Jax fired his rifle, the shots echoing through the tunnels, but the beast shrugged off the bullets, snarling in defiance. Each close call sent jolts of fear through the group. The monster wasn't just a mindless undead, It was an apex predator, a product of twisted science fused with infection. Lila stumbled, her injured leg catching on loose rubble. Maya lunged forward, hauling her up. "Keep moving. Don't look back." They dashed through a maze of maintenance tunnels, the walls slick with condensation. Somewhere ahead, a faint hum suggested they were near the control center, their best hope to seal off the experimental wing and contain the threat. But as they approached the heavy blast doors, another danger awaited. Voices, calm, controlled, and chillingly human, echoed from beyond the door. "They're still alive," Theo whispered. "But who?" Maya signaled for silence. The door's intercom crackled to life, and a cold, authoritative voice spoke. "Survivors detected. Cease movement immediately. You are trespassing on government property. Surrender for quarantine." Maya exchanged a wary glance with Levi and Daniels. "Quarantine? After everything we've seen?" The voice continued. "This facility is under military lockdown. Unauthorized personnel will be neutralized." A tense standoff ensued. Maya's mind raced. Were these voices friend or foe? Allies or enemies? Before anyone could respond, the blast doors hissed open, revealing a squad of soldiers clad in heavy tactical gear. Their faces were hidden behind visors, weapons trained on Maya's group. "Drop your weapons," the leader commanded. "We're not your enemies," Maya said carefully. "We're trapped down here, fighting for survival." One soldier stepped forward, visor reflecting the dim light. "Identify yourselves." Daniels stepped out. "I'm a former officer stationed here. The outbreak happened months ago. The military sealed this place off. We've been trying to find a way out." The soldier hesitated, then lowered his weapon slightly. "You're lucky we're still here. Most outside have been lost." Maya exhaled, relief mingling with suspicion. "What's the situation? Why haven't you evacuated?" The soldier's voice grew grim. "The infection mutated. Our weapons barely work. The creatures you encountered, enhanced specimens, are beyond anything we trained for. We're holding the line, but the bunker is a fortress under siege." Suddenly, alarms blared again, louder and more urgent. The soldiers tensed. "Containment breach in Sector C," a voice over the comm announced. "Mutant outbreak spreading." Chaos erupted. The soldiers snapped to action, weapons raised, rushing down a corridor. Maya's group followed, knowing this was their chance to prove themselves, or perish. As they raced through the dimly lit halls, the walls trembled under the force of distant explosions. Fires flickered behind steel grates. The undead horde was overwhelming the defenses. They arrived at the control center, where technicians frantically tried to stabilize the systems. Jax dove into a terminal, fingers flying over the keyboard. "I can reroute power to lock down more sectors, but I'll need cover." Maya nodded. "We'll hold them off." Outside the control room, the corridor filled with snarling mutants, half machine, half corpse, breaking through barricades like a tidal wave of destruction. The soldiers and survivors formed a desperate line, firing into the oncoming swarm. Bullets tore through flesh and metal, but the creatures kept coming. Maya's blade flashed as she engaged a mutant with exposed wiring, slicing through its arm. Sparks flew as it howled in rage. Beside her, Levi fought with grim determination, tossing makeshift explosives that rocked the hallway. The battle was savage, brutal, and seemingly endless. Then, amidst the chaos, a new horror emerged, a towering figure, even larger and more terrifying than the previous monster. It moved with horrifying intelligence, coordinating the smaller mutants like a twisted commander. Maya's heart pounded. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore, it was a war against something born from humanity's darkest experiments. With the control room secured and lockdown protocols activating, the group faced a harsh truth: the surface was lost, and the real battle was deep beneath the city, in the heart of dead America's underground nightmare. Let me know if you want me to continue with Part 6. The lockdown sequence groaned to life, heavy blast doors sliding shut behind them, sealing the corridor in an echoing boom. The harsh fluorescent lights flickered, casting long shadows across the control room's cracked consoles. For a brief moment, the survivors and soldiers stood panting, eyes wide and hearts racing, but the pause was fragile, the silence a thin veil over the looming storm. Maya leaned against the wall, wiping sweat and grime from her face. "We bought ourselves some time," she said, voice steady but strained. "But this place is a cage. And whatever's down here, it's still hunting us." Daniel stared at the security monitors, his face pale in the ghostly glow. This bunker wasn't just for survival. It was an experiment. A lab. They tried to create the ultimate weapon, combining technology with the infection. "We're living proof it failed." Jax nodded, scanning lines of code on the main terminal. The deeper sectors show signs of total collapse. Systems are failing, structural integrity compromised. The bunker will be unstable soon. Levi rubbed his temples. If the surface is lost, and this place falls, where does that leave us? A distant rumble shook the bunker, dust cascading from the ceiling tiles. The power flickered again, then steadied. Suddenly, a new voice crackled over the radio, a voice that sent a chill down Maya's spine. "This is Colonel Drake. If you're hearing this, the evacuation plan has failed. The virus has spread beyond containment. All survivors must move to Sector Zeta 9 for extraction. Repeat, move to Zeta 9. Maya's eyes narrowed. Zeta 9? None of us have heard of that sector before. Daniel shook his head. It's classified. A secret vault deep beneath the facility. Supposedly a failsafe for key personnel and assets. Meaning? Lila asked, fear tightening her throat. Meaning, Daniel said grimly, if we want to survive, that's where we have to go. The survivors exchanged wary glances. The unknown was never comforting, but the alternative was death by the mutants stalking the corridors. Gathering their gear, the group prepared to navigate the bunker's deepest, most treacherous levels. The stairwell descent was colder and darker than before. The hum of machinery faded into an unsettling silence, broken only by the soft drip of water and the distant scrape of claws. Maya led the way, senses sharp. Every shadow could conceal a threat. Every sound was a potential death knell. As they pressed forward, strange symbols and markings appeared on the walls, cryptic warnings or perhaps reminders left by those who'd come before. Daniels paused, tracing a jagged scar carved into the concrete. These markings, they're warnings. Something drove the original occupants mad. What could be worse than the infection? Theo whispered. The answer came swiftly. A guttural scream echoed from the darkness, followed by a chorus of whispered voices, distorted, haunting, and almost human. Lila clutched Maya's arm. Did you hear that? It's like voices. Maya swallowed hard. It's the bunker's past. This place holds more than monsters. It holds memories, and madness. They rounded a corner into a vast chamber filled with broken furniture, overturned desks, and shattered monitors. The remnants of a makeshift living space. On a blood-stained table lay a diary, its pages yellowed and torn. Maya picked it up carefully, reading aloud. Day 47. The virus is no longer the only enemy. The darkness plays tricks on us. Shadows move when no one's there. Whispers crawl beneath the walls. We are losing ourselves to this place. A sudden crash from the hallway jolted them back to reality. Jax raised his weapon. We're not alone. From the shadows emerged a figure, wild-eyed, gaunt, dressed in tattered clothes, clutching a makeshift spear. His face was streaked with dirt and madness. Help me, he rasped. They're coming. The ones beneath the surface. Maya stepped forward cautiously. Who are you? My name is Carter, the man said, voice trembling. I was part of the experiment. But they abandoned us. Left us to rot and go insane. His eyes darted around wildly. There's something worse down here. Not just the mutants. Something alive. Waiting. The room grew colder. The flickering lights cast grotesque shadows that danced along the walls. Maya's heart pounded. The deeper they went, the more the bunker revealed its true horror, not just undead or machines, but the slow unraveling of the human mind trapped beneath dead America. "Carter," she said softly, "will you come with us?" He hesitated, then nodded. As they turned to leave, the whispers grew louder, echoing through the empty halls. The descent into madness had begun, and the survivors had only just touched the surface. "Would you like me to continue to part 7? The group pushed forward through twisting corridors coated in grime and streaked with rust, the stale air heavy with a metallic tang. Every step echoed against the concrete, a grim reminder that their journey led deeper into the unknown, toward the fabled Sector Zeta 9, the last sanctuary. Maya's grip tightened on her blade as she scanned their surroundings. The walls seemed to close in, shadows pooling into dark shapes that flickered at the edges of her vision. The whispers that had haunted the previous chamber had not faded, they now seemed woven into the very fabric of the bunker, an eerie soundtrack to their desperate escape. Daniels led the way, his military training keeping him steady despite the growing unease. "Zeta 9 is a secure vault," he explained quietly. "Designed to protect vital personnel, research, and resources. If anyone can save what's left of humanity, it's there." Lila shuffled behind, her injured leg slowing her down, but her resolve never wavered. "How much further?" she asked, voice small. "Not far," Maya replied, glancing at the flickering map on Jax's tablet. "Just past this next junction." As they rounded the corner, a sudden explosion rocked the bunker, throwing dust and debris into the air. The group was thrown to the ground as alarms blared again, a shrill warning that felt like the death knell for any hope left. Maya scrambled up, coughing. "Everyone okay?" Nods and murmurs of assent. But the grim truth settled over them like a heavy fog. The bunker was falling apart, and so were their chances. Ahead, the blast doors to Sector Zeta 9 loomed massive and sealed. Jax hurried to the control panel, fingers flying over the worn keys. The system groaned under the strain, but finally the door began to hiss open. They stepped inside cautiously, eyes adjusting to the dim blue glow of emergency lights. The room was vast and clinical, filled with rows of cryo chambers and sealed containers. Shelves held supplies, weapons, and data drives, remnants of a civilization clinging to survival. "This is it," Daniels breathed. "The last hope." But the relief was short-lived. From the far corner, movement stirred. A figure stepped forward, a woman, her face pale but fierce, wearing the insignia of a scientist. "You're not supposed to be here," she said coldly, voice sharp as shattered glass. "We're survivors," Maya replied. "We need shelter. We need answers." The woman's eyes hardened. "I'm Dr. Reyes. I've been running this facility alone since the outbreak. But the bunker's not safe anymore." She gestured toward a monitor flickering with security footage, hordes of mutated creatures converging on their location, breaching outer defenses. "They're coming," Reyes said grimly. "And when they arrive, this sanctuary will fall." Maya stepped closer. "Is there a way out?" Dr. Reyes shook her head. "No. This place is buried too deep, and the surface is a wasteland. But I have a plan, a final protocol that might save us." The survivors exchanged uneasy glances. "What plan?" Daniels asked. Reyes hesitated, then pressed a sequence of buttons on the console. The cryo chambers hissed open, releasing frozen figures, men and women, soldiers and scientists, eyes blank but bodies alive. "We put the key personnel into stasis," Reyes explained. "When the danger passes, they'll awaken to rebuild." "But that leaves the rest of us exposed," Levi said bitterly. Reyes nodded. "A sacrifice. The bunker's defenses won't hold forever." Maya's heart ached. The reality was brutal. Some would live, frozen in time, while others fought a losing battle to protect them. Suddenly, the bunker trembled violently. The mutant horde had arrived. The survivors scrambled for weapons as the massive blast doors buckled under pressure. The sound of cracking steel echoed like thunder. We hold here, Maya commanded. No one gets through. The corridors flooded with snarling mutants, their eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. The battle was fierce and unforgiving, every strike a desperate gamble. Lila fought fiercely despite her injury, standing beside Maya as they pushed back wave after wave. Daniels and the soldiers formed a protective ring around the cryo chambers, their weapons blazing. But the mutants were relentless, breaking through defenses one by one. Maya glanced at Dr. Reyes, whose expression was one of grim determination. "This is the last stand," Reyes said quietly. "For the future of humanity." As the mutants closed in, the survivors fought not just for their lives, but for a chance at tomorrow, a hope buried beneath the surface of a dead America. "Ready to move on to the finale? Let me know when you want part 8. You said. The bunker trembled violently, its steel bones groaning under the relentless assault. Outside, the monstrous horde battered the blast doors, their growls shaking the very air. Inside, the survivors stood their ground, battered but unbroken, hearts pounding in unison with the bunker's faltering heartbeat. Maya gripped her blade, eyes scanning the shadowy corridor as mutated creatures pressed closer, their snarls like the whispers of death. Beside her, Levi fired round after round, the deafening gunfire a desperate barrier between life and oblivion. Dr. Reyes moved swiftly among the group, initiating the final protocols on the cryo chambers. The icy pods hissed shut, sealing the frozen soldiers and scientists away, humanity's last hope preserved in suspended time. "We don't have much longer," Reyes said urgently. "The power's failing. The doors won't hold." Jax's fingers flew over the control panel, sweat pouring down his face. "If I can reroute emergency power to the generators, maybe we can buy more time." Maya nodded, determination flaring in her eyes. "Do it. We'll hold the line." The mutants surged forward in a terrifying wave, their grotesque forms crashing against the barricades like a tidal wave. The survivors fought with every ounce of strength left, but exhaustion crept in, threatening to swallow their hope. Suddenly, a violent explosion rocked the bunker, throwing Maya off her feet. Darkness swallowed the room for a brief moment before emergency lights flickered back on. The blast had severed a main power conduit. Jax groaned but stayed focused. "Almost there, just a few more seconds." Outside the control room, the mutant leader, the towering abomination that had commanded the horde, broke through the last barricade. Its eyes locked on Maya with deadly intent. Heart pounding, Maya raised her blade. This was the final stand. Levi shouted, "Cover her!" Gunfire and howls filled the corridor as Maya charged forward, blades slicing through mutated flesh. The creature howled in rage and pain, its strength enormous but slowing under the onslaught. Jax's fingers hit the final key. Emergency power restored. The generators roared to life, sending a pulse through the bunker's systems. The blast doors slammed shut with a finality that shook the ground. Trapped outside, the mutant leader roared in fury, pounding against the sealed doors, its fury echoing through the halls. Inside, the survivors collapsed, panting and bleeding but alive. The cryo chambers sealed their precious cargo, the last hope waiting in frozen slumber. Maya looked around at the battered faces, their eyes reflecting a fragile hope. "We survived," she said quietly. "But this isn't the end. It's just the beginning." Dr. Reyes nodded. "There's a world to rebuild, if we can make it to the surface." Levi helped Lila to her feet. "First, we rest. Then we plan." Outside, the nightmare waited, silent for now but never gone. Beneath the surface, in the heart of dead America, a new battle was dawning, one not just for survival, but for the soul of humanity itself. Would you like me to help with anything else, like turning these into scripts, narration tips, or imagery ideas?